So Keir Starmer has said that he supports assisted dying and he would like to see a vote in the Commons in Labour's first year of government. Speaking in a phone call with broadcaster and campaigner Dame Esther Ranson, who has expressed her own wish for an assisted death, Sir Keir said he was personally committed to a change in the law. It is currently illegal to help someone take their own life in the UK. However, there is growing political momentum in favour of allowing assisted dying, also known as assisted suicide. I'm personally in favour of changing the law, he told her. I think we need to make time. We will make the commitment. Esther, I can give you that commitment right now. Now, Starmer hasn't said this will be Labour policy. It's something he personally supports and would make sure there is a free vote in the Commons rather than a manifesto commitment. But there is a huge, huge issue here. Look, I'm in favour of this policy principally. I think it's cruel to force people to endure this suffering with no hope of getting better. Forcing someone to stay alive in pain, I think is kind of like torture. But I say principally, I used to be someone who thought this should be in law now, just get it done. Then I read about Canada, and what I found shocked me. In Canada, they have assisted dying, but this policy has been used to kill homeless and disabled people. Government figures show that 13,102 people ended their lives under MAID in 2022, an increase of 30% on the previous year, and that 4.1% of deaths in Canada are now being assisted by doctors. In 2021, UN human rights expert warned that the expansion of the legislation to include those with chronic conditions would create a two-tiered system and push people with disabilities towards suicide. The great majority of those who access MAID do so on the basis of terminal conditions, but in 2022, 463 cases were assessed and accepted on the basis of chronic conditions. Ramona Colho, a GP based in London, Ontario, wrote an article that tackled the question of supposed free choice from the standpoint of a medical provider whose practice serves predominantly low-income and marginalised patients, including refugees, those who have been in our prison system or are facing charges, and many with disabilities and mental health issues. Colho notes that when MAID was extended to those not at immediate risk of dying, I was appalled to learn that my patients, who are frequently blocked from care as a result of hurdles created by our government and systems, could potentially be offered an expedient death provided by the government. Her article shows how long-standing political agendas of austerity and social abandonment cast a shadow over the option of assisted dying. So people are essentially coerced into giving up their lives because the government isn't giving adequate care, whether that's health or social care. And this leads people to think, well, they have no option, and then the government just kills them. This is what an austerity-ridden society is, and this is what would happen if we had assisted dying today. Now, I want to go through some examples to highlight how dangerous this policy can be. The case of Alan Nichols demonstrates how uncomfortably permissive Canada's euthanasia framework is. Nichols, who suffered from depression, was hospitalised in June 2019 over fears he was suicidal. Upon hospitalisation, he asked his brother Gary to bust him out as soon as possible. A month later, Nichols successfully applied for MAID, not for depression, which is not yet legal, but for hearing loss, which occurred as a result of brain surgery when he was 12. His family, who filed a police report and notified health authorities, said that there was no way that he was eligible for MAID, arguing that he had refused to take his meds and use his cochlear implants, which would have helped his hearing. Alan was basically put to death, Gary Nichols said. Sean Taggart, who suffered from Lou Gehrig's disease, chose to end his life in August 2019 at the age of 41, leaving behind an 11-year-old son. While his condition required him to receive 24-hour care, the government would only provide funding for 16 hours, forcing him to pay $263.50 a day for the remaining 8 hours. He called the option of institutionalization, as opposed to fully funded care, a death sentence. Roger Foley, who was hospitalised with a degenerative brain disorder in London, Ontario, began surreptitiously recording his conversations with hospital workers who offered him euthanasia unprompted. In one recording, the hospital's director of ethics told him continuing care would cost north of $1,500 a day, the Associated Press reported, which he correctly regarded as coercive. Now, I don't trust this government or the Labour Party to implement this policy without some form of eugenics taking place. And that's not to say I think that Labour are evil and they're going to do it on purpose, even though Labour are reprehensible. But this is a symptom of a neoliberal society. Our economic system puts profit at the forefront, whilst trying to strip back the public realm as much as possible. Our governments don't treat people as humans. We are treated as a measure of productivity and profit making. So when you introduce a policy under this system, people will be killed because they are not considered a productive member of society. In the eyes of capitalism, they are seen as a burden, regardless of whether politicians do it on purpose or not. And given that Labour have been very clear they will continue austerity, if this policy were to become law, people will die. So I think this is a really bad idea from Keir Starmer. I'd like to see this policy where eugenics are nowhere near it, but that would only be possible, at the very least, in a post-neoliberal society. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and drop a comment. It's good for the algorithm, and I'm interested in what you have to say. If you're not already subscribed, please do, and hit the notification bell. You can also support this channel by becoming a member for 99p per month, and if you're feeling a little more generous, then you can support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month. This channel for a while has been uploading every single day, and it's quite a lot of work that is still voluntary and scheduled around my paid work. But I have so much ambition, expect in the future to see more variety in content, such as interviews and vox pops. But I want this to be a fully fledged media organisation where not only is this my full-time job, but to have multiple people working for Turn Left. I like to see a live show in the future, more content that delves into culture, history, and much more. But that can only be done if there's money. So please, if you can, support us in any way that's in your capacity. And thank you to existing members, subscribers, and patrons. See you next time.